Okay, so with respect to opening Jupyter will be something like searching for this symbol over here, which looks like Jupyter itself. It has two orange symbols. If you can't, means click on the Windows icon and search for Jupyter, and then click on it. Then this kind of terminal command line prompt will open up, and the that will automatically push us to the desktop. Okay, I mean, sorry, desktop's default browser. It will open it in the default browser. Then it won't be like this. It'll ask you to create a new directory. It'll open in this kind of directory. Okay, I don't think she'll ask us to change directories and all in Jupyter. So you need to make a new directory. A directory is also called a folder. So you click on folder, and then there's an untitled folder over here. So I'm gonna rename it. Rename. We're gonna rename it cat for preparation. Okay. Okay. Now first things first. As soon as you rename your folder, go inside, click on new, and click on folder again, and then rename it as data. Small would be better. Okay. That's it. Okay. So this is how you open Jupyter and set up your Python environment. Okay. This is like the starting point of you attempting your exam. Now to open a new file, you can see next to upload there's something called new. Click on new, and there will be I have installed R also, but I don't think you'll get this R option. You'll only get Python 3 text file folder terminal. Okay. So uh, click on Python 3 and it will open in a new tab. Now rename your notebook as prep for whatever, prep for cat 4. Okay, prep for cat 4. This is how you would rename your new uh, IPython notebook. Okay, so uh, over here when you come back, you will see that it says .ipynb. So what that means is it is a interactive Python notebook. Okay, and this is basically like a new way in which people learn Python right now. IPynb files are files that look like this. They have interactive kernels. Each one of these blue color outline things are called kernels. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kernels. So each one of these have 5 kernels, and that's how you can split your entire script. For example, if I showed you right now, let me go to Selenium. Okay, so keep no. Okay, one second. Wait. Edit with idle. Yeah. Okay. So this is one of the other codes, and this is how the code generally looks like. Okay, it looks like this huge wall of text, and you run it all, and then you search for the error, and then you change the error. Okay, so that's how it is in general. But over here, you can split your entire program into parts. Okay, so that's what interactive Python notebooks are. They allow you to split your program into parts and also include these kind of text boxes, also called as markdown boxes. Okay, this will allow you to not only split your code into different parts for handling errors wherever they need to be. In our case, it will be like importing the data visualization, data pre-processing, machine learning, and accuracy. So we don't need to rerun the entire code again. If an error comes in only accuracy, we need to change the accuracy part and run that part alone. And it allows for good reproducible research. The point of reproducible research is to have text, and then you can explain your text and everything. But if you had like a program .py file, only you can only put comments on it. You can't like explain stuff on it. Okay, so that is with respect to what IPynb files are. When you open, this is how it will look like. Okay, so what we're going to do now is learn various shortcuts. Okay, I'm gonna tell the basic shortcuts, but if you ever forget any shortcuts, remember that they're over here in help and keyboard shortcuts. Okay, they're in help and keyboard shortcuts. Okay, So this is there are two modes. One is called command mode and one is called edit mode. Okay, and these are the shortcuts for that. If you ever feel like you need to look at a shortcut, you can go to help and then you can go to keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so command mode is when this blue line is there over here. Edit mode is when it's green in color. So command mode, you have to exchange between command and edit, you press escape. Okay, so right now I press escape, it's in command. To go into edit, you press enter. Okay, so when you press enter means you're entering the kernel and then now you're editing. So print hello. Okay, so but now I'm still in edit again. So to go out of edit, I press escape. Okay, so now I'm in command mode. Now in command mode, a few shortcuts are A, B and A, B, D, D. Okay, A, B, D, D, Y and M. Okay, so when I press A, it inserts a cell above. When I press D, D two times, like if I press D two times, it will delete that cell. Okay, when I press B, it puts a cell underneath the current one. If I press M, it changes it into markdown. Okay, you can do that by selecting this over here, going into command and then changing it into markdown. But another way you can do it is by pressing escape, going into command and pressing M. Okay, M turns it into markdown, Y turns it into code. What is markdown? Markdown is basically for you to put any kind of text, whatever you want. Okay, so in case you want to like go to a new line, you need to give a gap in between every line. Okay, so that is with respect to markdown. There are few things like so if you want to put a heading, you put single hash and then give a space and h1, double for h2, triple for h3 and so on. I think it's still h6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Yeah, h6. Okay, so that's how it goes. In case you want to put bold, you need to put 2 asterisks and then type your text in between that. Like in WhatsApp, you put 1 asterisk. Over here, you need to put 2. If you want italics, you need to put only 1. You have to put only 1. Okay. That's it with respect to that. And you can also make lists. So hello there. So when you start a list, it changes in blue color. If you look closely, you can see it. Hello there. This is a sub point. Another sub point. Second main point. One sub point and sub point. Okay, do you see that it arranges it neatly, like hello there, sub point, one sub point and then sub point goes like that. Okay, I'll share this file also. Okay, so this is with respect to markdown by itself. Okay, so we can stop like over here for a second. Okay, somebody joined, I don't know who. Okay, fine, chill, no worries. Somebody wanted to join. Okay, so this is with respect to markdown by itself completely. Okay, so to revise again, how do we open it? We open it by searching for this Jupyter Notebook icon either in the taskbar or in the search, Windows search. After we open it, we'll come into a root directory which is over here. Okay, generally, I'll tell you the location of the root directory also. Everyone, like, I would suggest you make yourselves familiar with it. Okay. Be really familiar with it. I don't think she will change the root directory also for us. In case she does, then it's very good. But if not, means remember the location of the root directory. I'll tell you guys how it goes right now. Okay, so this is how it will open. To create a new folder, you click on a new folder and then you click over here. You click a checkbox and then you rename it. Go inside, create a data folder, and then create your new IPYNB file. And then to rename it, you put this over here. A good thing about this is that your work gets automatically saved, I think every few minutes, but make sure to press Ctrl S every time and then you'll get this thing called checkpoint created. Every time your code runs again, it saves it. That is one place where it saves it. Another place is where you put Ctrl S. Okay, So, and then with respect to Markdown, we just covered what Markdown is, and shortcuts can be found over here in Help and Keyboard Shortcuts. Okay, if it's blue in color over here, we're in Command mode, and if it's green, we're in Edit. Okay, and we can toggle between Markdown and code by pressing Y. It's not necessary, but I'll just let you guys know in case you want to put code in Markdown also. Like say like this can also be done. You have to put 3 of these. I don't know what it is, dude. It's on the top next to 1. I don't know what that symbol is. Okay, it's on the top next to 1. If anybody knows what it's called, let me know. You put 3 of those, and then you click on Python. You click enter 2 times and put 3 of those again, and then you type your code. Print hello world. Okay, so it shows it like it's code. Okay, if that wasn't there, it would have like looked like shit. It wouldn't have looked like code. Okay, so that's what you do with respect to adding code into Markdown cells. And I don't think we need to add images also. It's not necessary at this point. So that's it, guys, with respect to where what needs to be and Markdown. So let's go one by one. First, let me see if I'm able to get a new data folder. So, okay, yeah. So now about the location. In case you're in Windows, I can let you know. I don't know about Linux system. So if they put us on Ubuntu, you might be screwed over here. But if you're on a Windows system, open your Windows File Explorer, go to OS, which is your C directory, then users, name of the person. It's called Sasha over here because my name is Sashank and it cut it. I don't know why. Go to Sasha or Sashank or whatever. It'll be written admin also, I think. And over there is where your root directory will be. Over here, so you can say cat for preparation, all my folders, downloads, and all of that. Okay, so in case she asks you to get the data from UCI machine learning repository, or she's like this data over here, copy paste it somewhere else and then use it, that's what you need to do. You need to copy it. Say I have the data which we're going to use right now is over here in all my folders. Okay, so in our codes, where are we right now? German credit risk modeling and data. Okay, so this is the data that we need. Okay, so I'm going to control A, control C, and in case it's somewhere else, what I need to do is I need to open Windows, go to OS, go to users, go to the name of the person, admin, Sasha, SSN, whatever, then go to cat for preparation, go to the data folder which we created, and then paste it over there. Okay, so this is about like fully setting up your environment and getting ready with your data. Okay, so that's it with respect to everything. I guess we can start programming right now. So the first cell always needs to be 1 second, I'll just see if I can include it below. Okay, so the first cell needs to, like, you can put a heading, obviously you can put a heading over here with the markdown and everything, but the first cell always needs to import all of your directories. Okay, that way you'll know whether if you have the directories that you need for machine learning and for data pre-processing and everything together, or you don't have it. Okay, so I'm going to be learning with you guys together, so in case I don't know anything, I'll obviously be Googling them. If somebody could write it down and maybe send whatever I'm Googling, it will be amazing. Okay, is anyone still on the call? எல்லாரும் ரொம்ப சைலண்டா இருக்கீங்க bro.
Yes, yes.
இல்ல லைக் ஏதாவது காண்டா சொல்றேனா, லைக் புரியுதா உங்களுக்கு?
No, dude, no, dude. This is very informational.
Okay, fine. So first things first, you need to learn about 2 main, or rather 3 main directories. They're called in pandas, numpy, and what else was there? Matplotlib. Okay, if you want to put, you can put random also, but no. Okay, we'll cover these 3. Okay, how do you import these? To import any library, you do import. Okay, another thing, to create a comment in inline. Okay, you don't always need to use markdown. You need to start with hash and then you can type whatever you want. Python will consider that as white space. Okay, so import insert library name as insert alias if necessary. This is one way you can import various things. Another thing is if you want only a single function, like in machine learning, you don't want to import the entire scikit-learn thing. You want scikit-learn metrics and classification report. For that, what you need to do is you need to do from library name import function name. Okay, so this is how you import for that. So first we'll cover this thing, what basic way. So import pandas as pd, import, okay, I put alias. Okay, so what I meant by alias over here is this small thing over here. Okay, I don't need to include this. Okay, it doesn't need to be there, but I've included it because like after I run it, I don't need to type pandas dot data frame of close and then 10 to 12 13. Okay, it's not yet there, but I don't need to do this write pandas every time I want to use pandas. I can just put pd. Okay, so import numpy as np. And how I came up with these names is I didn't. So that's the thing, you don't come up with these names. These are aliases that are used everywhere. So that's what's there. And for matplotlib, remember that you always need to put import matplotlib dot pyplot as plt. So you don't want to import the entire matplotlib one. In matplotlib, there is a directory called pyplot, which is Python plotting, and you import that with the alias plt. Okay, so shift enter, and this is going to tell us whether if all our directories are running properly or not. So let me just show you one thing awesome over here. So cell, okay, when you want to go from scratch again, like you want to clear all the output, you want to delete it, you need to click on wait, where is it? Yeah, bro, kernel. Yeah, okay, you need to click on kernel next to cell, and you need to click restart and clear output. Now it goes again to scratch, and it's like the code will still be there, but all the output is gone, all the variables have been deleted, and it's a fresh environment right now. Okay, I'm going to show you something over here on top right next to trusted. It will show what kind of environment you're running, and next to it you see the small dot. Okay, if the dot is black in color, it means the code is running. If the dot is white in color, empty, it means the code has like finished running or an error has come and it's not yet running code. Okay, you'll see it change as soon as I'm importing the libraries. You saw that, right? So that is with respect to importing pandas. Okay, so she might ask a question as how to create a data frame. Maybe let's say a data frame is for pandas is basically a table. Okay, so pandas. Okay, it stands for panel data. Okay, so data that is paneled. Okay, numpy is numeric Python, and matplotlib we know. Okay, MATLAB plotting library. Okay, or plotting library dot pyplot is Python plot. Okay, so with respect to panel data, the data frame will can be thought of in the form of a dictionary. So you guys know what a dictionary is. It's a Python data type which has curly braces around it. Okay, so so there'll be column 1 and data. Okay, one second, wait. Okay, column 1 data, comma space, column 2 data. Okay, data. Okay, so this is how Python dictionaries are created. Okay, they're generally dictionaries because JSON files are also in the form of dictionaries. JSON files are how you get data from web places, so they're also in the form of dictionaries, and that's how you get. That's why they made pandas as dictionaries. So you know what a dictionary is, obviously, and so the dictionary has a key value pair. this is the key. The first part of every part is the key, and the value is over here. In pandas, the key is the name of the column, and the value will be, which is hopefully a list always, will be the data, each row. Okay. Another thing it does is when you create a data frame, it makes sure that these data, like you need to make sure that this data has the same length as this data, or else there will either be missing values or it will raise an issue. Okay. So over here, if you want me to like create one and return 100, 41. Close price, or we can put volume itself. Okay, volume. Yeah, this is much better. This will give me a better example. 20, 30, and 50. Okay, so I'm creating a pandas data frame. But the thing is, if you notice, there's a huge error over here. The data frame is being created, but it's not being used. Okay, so as in it's not being saved into a variable. So you save it into a variable called df. Okay, you can use df, which means data frame or data or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to use something as return, or rather prices. Okay, prices. Okay, so this is with respect to how to create a data frame. Okay, now let me print out prices. You see that this is a data frame, and each one of these are called rows or data points. The close is one column, volume is one column, 0, 1, 2 are called indices or index values. So the Python is a zero indexing language, which means it counts from 0 and not from 1. R programming, on the other hand, counts from 1. Okay, so over here in Python, because it's a zero index language, you need to count, like the first one will be 0, then second one will be 1, third will be 2, like that. Okay, same thing with respect to columns. The first column is 0, second column is 1. Now you're like, GV, how do I know like this function, like how will I remember this function? What you can do for anything, if you don't remember a function in a library, is press pd dot and just think like the first or second letter. I know the first letter is D. Okay, I'm gonna try small d and press tab in Jupyter. It's not giving me data frame. Okay, whenever you press D, the first letter, and then press tab, it's going to show you all the functions that are available in that library. Okay, so pandas has this thing which starts with date range or describe option. Okay, but how about I start with capital D and press tab? It shows data frame, offset, and all of that. So after I press tab, I can see data frame is there, and I press enter. In case I needed date offset, okay, date offset, I go down with the down arrow and press enter. It goes there. However, always remember that whenever you're calling something, calling a function especially, you need to put these parentheses. These are really important. You miss them out always, and you need to make sure that you always put these parentheses. Okay. Another reason why you need to put these parentheses is because let's go for data frame itself. Data frame. Okay, now I put these parentheses, right? Now I'm at a position where I don't know anything. Okay, I know that there's this function called data frame, and I want to see how do I create a data frame. So I want to look at the doc string. A doc string is also called as a document string, which comes with every Python function. Okay, if you're ever writing a function, it's necessary that you also write a doc string, because it helps people know like what all need to be included into your function. So to access a doc string in Jupyter, and this is a really important point which will help a lot for everything from now on, it will help a lot. Okay, press hold shift and press tab. Okay, you need to press shift and tab. Okay, so this kind of thing comes up, you press on plus and you can read everything about the function, what it returns. There are examples on how to create a data frame. Look at this, a df2 is pd.dataframe np array, and this is a two-dimensional array. So data frames can also be two-dimensional arrays. You know what, let's cover that example also. And there are these functions, see, data, index, columns, dtype, copy, all of these is there, and you can learn a lot from here itself. Okay, generally there'll be examples and everything. So you don't need internet to know what function to call, and you don't need the internet to know what all you need to put inside a function also. It's already there. If it's installed, it's already there inside. Okay? What happened to Giovanni?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah?
you wanted to say something. Unmute பண்ணலாம்.
No.
Okay, okay.
No, no.
Okay, so again, going again from scratch, this is how you import, and this is an alias. If you want to import a single function, you put library name, from library name, import function name. Panel date, Panda stands for panel data, NumPy stands for numeric Python, and Matplotlib stands for math plotting library. Pandas data frame can be seen as either dictionaries or two-dimensional arrays. Okay, but the problem with two-dimensional arrays is that you need to put the column names again. Okay, so this is how you can either interpret. There are two ways you can interpret it: either as a dictionary with a list as the value and the key as the name of the column, or a two-dimensional array. Okay, and how do you call a function which you don't know? You press the library name, you put dot, and then I think you can just press tab over here itself. But the thing is, yeah, there are so many over here. So at least if you know the first letter, at least press capital D and then you can do it. Call it by putting the parentheses and put shift tab, okay, to get the doc string. And I've created a data frame over here and prices is over here. That's it. Okay, so this is with respect to creating a data frame. Now we're going to see mutating a data frame, indexing through a data frame, and plotting. Okay, plotting values in a data frame. Okay, so let me just add a few more values: 10, 12, 13, 8, 15, 9. Okay, over here let's have 10, 45, 30. Are they same? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. Okay, so every time you make a change over here, don't expect it to show again over here. Okay, you need to press shift enter again for it to show. If you feel like you're okay enough restarting and running everything, you just put restart and run all code, and it will run everything all over, and you can see your output over here. Okay, so first things first, how do you index through rows? Okay, how do you get a single row value? You can do this by using something called ilog. Okay, so it's data frame dot ilog. Okay, data frame dot ilog. Okay, and you put the index location over here. Okay, I think ilog is with this kind of parentheses. Yeah, ilog is with that kind of parentheses for row. And if you want a column alone, you put data frame. And if you want a single column, you can put dot and then you can put the column name, but it should be as is. So if I have close over here, it should be capital COLSE. Okay, which is why if you're ever naming a new column, don't put space in the name. Don't put close price. Put close underscore price. Okay, that is with respect to calling a column alone and calling various rows. Another way you can call rows is data frame and a box over here, and inside this box you put index 1 to index 2. Hi Rudy, good evening. Index 1 to index 2.
Hi, Devi.
Hi. Index 1, index 2, comma, call number 1 to call. I've recorded till here, so if you can follow from here, now follow from there. Okay. Call number 1. So it should be from 0 to 1 that way. Okay. So this is with respect to indexing. Remember this. So let's try to get the second row alone. Okay. Second row alone. Okay. So this will be prices. Second row or third row rather, third row. To get the third row, I put 2. Prices of 2. Okay, it's giving me an error. What is this? Key error. Okay, it should be 2 comma. Hey, what the fuck? ilog. I said ilog here. Yeah, okay. Prices dot ilog of 2. I'm really sorry. You use prices dot ilog of 2. Okay. Also, I'm going to leave these errors as such because I don't want to be like no mistakes will happen during programming. It's more about how you solve the issues if they come up. So what happened over here is I'm going to trace back to what I did over here. Okay, there is an error called key error, and it says 2. So what key error means is, if you ever get this kind of error, it means that there is no such value there. Okay, just give me a sec. Yeah, there is no such like there's no thing named 2 as a column. Okay, so but if I put close, it will give me the close values alone. So the key of close is there, but there is no like key for this thing called 2. Okay, even if you want, even the reason why there's no 2 also, but if you put 1 also, it won't come. The reason like being, you need to call these by their name. Okay, close and volume. If you wanted the third row alone, you need to put dot ilog of 3. Okay, I just want to see one more thing. Prices, because I remember clearly it should be 1 is 2 3 4 invalid syntax. So does anyone know how do you do this kind of indexing?
You try putting column name and then the row number.
Yeah, 1 second. Close. Okay. Put it 1 2. How many do we have over here? We have 5, right? 1 2 3. Okay. Yeah, dude. Thanks a lot, Cynthia.
Cool.
So yeah, this is how you can index various rows. Okay, you need from row number 2 to row number, like let's say 4 over here. Okay, you need row number 2 to row number 4 means you need to put 1 comma 5. 1 because it's a 0 indexing language, and hence for row number 2 you need to put 1, and it counts till one place under it. One place under it, so it counts till 4. If you want to go to like the fifth column means you need to put index 5, which means like row number 6, and gives us row 1 2 3 4. Okay, now mutating. Okay, so for mutating data, if you want to add a new data like column, if you want to add a new column to this, all you need to do is just put prices new col, or rather date is equal to list. This should be a list always. Okay, it should be a list. Jan, Feb, this, March. How many do we have? We have 6, right? 1 2 3 4 5. April, August. So 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, now if I print prices over here, a new column called date has been added. Say I want the return. Okay, so a return of something will be the closing price into the volume, right? So this is the kind of question that she said, like adding a new column based on functions. This will be one of the questions. Okay, so the thing will be return is equal to prices of close star prices of volume. Okay, now 1 second, good. Okay, now if I print out prices, it gives me return, which is 10 into 20, which is 200, 12 into 30 is 360, 13 into 50 is 650, and as such. Okay, so this is how you get a new data column. Okay, that is it with respect to 1 second, guys. Let me see. Okay, wait, let me just put our objectives here. Okay, so read and summarize data with things such as measures of descent or tendency. We have to cover that one. We've done mutate data as required in the problem statement. So in the problem statement, they might be like mileage is this, there are these many liters, find something else, or they might give you the height and weight of a person. They'll give the BMI formula, and they'll ask you to add another column called BMI. For that, you need to put prices of BMI, or rather data frame of BMI is equal to data frame of weight into something plus there's a formula for BMI. I don't know, man. Okay, clearly I don't know. Okay, but yeah, otherwise that's it. with respect to the second point alone. So we finished the second point. So let me just put done. Okay, so we're done with this part. Okay, now let's go with read and summarize data with things such as measures of central tendency. Okay. Okay, so now reading and summarizing data with respect to control X V. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm arranging it for posterity, so I hope you bear with me. I know it's already a little boring. I'm really sorry, guys. Okay, so this is with respect to first one, which is mutate data. Okay, 1 second. I got it. There's a world outside. Okay, this is the reason I paused it. Thanks a lot, dude, Shivani. Okay, so point 2, which is mutate data, is being covered over here. Now, measures of central tendency. Okay, for with the data frame itself, where the pandas data frame. So let me just put type of prices. Okay, it says panda score frame data frame. Okay, so this entire panel data is a data frame, but if I put type prices of close, it will come series. Okay, so each column is called a series data, pandas series data, and the entire table is called as pandas data frame by itself. Okay, so with respect to pandas data frame, the data type pandas data frame, there's a lot of functionality. So if you put prices dot and press tab, remember how I told like we can get functions? These are all of the functions that are there with respect to pandas data frame. So let's get mean. Okay, prices dot mean. Okay, so over here it's given dropping nuisance column and reducing. Okay, so this is a warning saying that date cannot have a mean, but the other ones it's calculated mean for us. Okay, so that's how you get mean, median, mode. Okay, I don't know why it's not written the mode. Okay, it's over here. Oh no, it's arranging it in ascending of like volume. Has it come 2 times? Volume, yeah. Volume came 2 times, so it's put it in ascending order. So 30 comes first as mode, and everything else doesn't come. Over here there are only unique values, and over here there are only unique values. So that's why mode has come like this. But you can get mode alone. So if I put prices of volume, you get this. Okay. Another thing about indexing which I haven't covered over here is indexing various columns together. Okay, which is if the most intuitive thing you would do is put close, comma space, return. Okay, but this will give us an error. Okay, because there is no key named close, comma, return. Okay, so if you want to index 2 columns at the same time, you need to encase it in a list. Okay, so my suggestion always is create another variable. It's super simple. Call names equal to a list of all the columns you want to print out, and then just put prices of call names. That's it. Okay, so the reason being, if you just put close, comma, space, return, it's only going to give that part alone. Like it'll think that close, comma, space, return is some kind of key, and it's gonna screw it up. Okay, person like guys, you on the call கொஞ்சம் பேசுங்க, நான் டென்ஷன் ஆறேன், எல்லாரும் சைலண்டா இருக்கீங்க.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. But yeah, okay. So with respect to mutating data, we've covered. Then read and summarize data with measures of central tendency. I've just told summarizing data. Another way you can summarize data is called prices dot describe, I think, prices dot describe. Okay, so this is a good way to summarize data. Okay, whenever they ask you to summarize data, do this. Don't do that dot main dot this thing. It gives us a really good table. So the count is, there are 6 values over here. The mean is 11.630 and 372. The standard deviation is this much. The minimum is this much: 25th quartile, 50th quartile, 75th quartile, and maximum. Okay. Another few things you need to describe are the unique values. Okay. So prices dot value underscore counts. Okay. So prices dot value underscore counts will give us for the entire data frame, but you need to do for a pandas series. So let's do volume. So she's going to ask something like how many BMI are there, print how many BMI people, how many people with so and so BMI, how many people with so and so height are there. Then you need to do prices volume dot value underscore counts. It shows that there are 2 people, like over here there are 2 volumes which are 30 and the rest of them are 1. Okay. Another thing is, if you want only the unique values of a data frame, so say over here in date, say I've added February 2 times. Okay, February is there over here, and over here 3 times. February is there 3 times. Okay, so say you only want the unique values, and obviously our data is not going to have only 6 rows, and you won't be able to count each and every row. Like imagine counting for like thousands of rows, being like, okay, there's 1 Jan, 1 Feb, and all of that. What you can do is you can do value underscore counts, which gives you all the unique values. But if you want only the unique values, you can put dot unique. Okay, which will give you an array of all of this. The reason you want to do this is because you can save it into a data frame named date. Okay. Oh, hello Kausalya. Okay, so you can save it into a data frame named date, and then I can call this date function wherever I want later. Okay, that is with respect to it all. Data. Okay, I'm really sorry guys, I'm looking at your text. So yeah, this is with respect to getting unique values, getting the value underscore counts, and describing data. Okay, so we're done with this. We're done with summarizing data. Done. And I'll clean up the entire notebook and send it so that you guys can access it later with all of these named nicely. Data pre-processing techniques such as removing missing values or replacing them with other values, standard scaling, label encoding, and categorical values. Okay, few things. Removing missing values or replacing with other values, that I won't be typing it explicitly. I'll show you the code, but the other ones I can show you right now. Plot various. Okay, fine. Okay, now we're going to come to the most important part, which is reading data. Okay, so when you read data, you need to save it into a data frame. So df equals pd dot. How do you read data? You read it based on what kind of file it is. Okay, so right now in my data folder I have 3 files. They're all CSV files. If I had an Excel file, I'd have to put .xlsx. It'll have the extension .xlsx, and based on that I'll need to read. Okay, so you put pd dot, and as I said, how do you call a function if you don't know? You just put the first 2 letters. Okay, you put read and you press tab. These are all of the file types pandas can read and then convert into a data frame. So I put read underscore CSV, and then I put the parentheses. Now what do? I press shift tab inside the parentheses, then I get the first parameter. It's called file path or buffer. You don't need to put the separator, delimiter, and everything unless and until she explicitly asks for it. Okay, so pd.read CSV. And now remember how we put it in the data folder. So you need to put it in the quotes, put it in quotes, data / to go into the data directory, and then press tab. Okay, over here it shows what all files are there inside. Now I'm gonna call German credit.csv. Okay, and then we're going to do print df dot. Okay, so shift enter. Okay, so this is the data frame. It's read it properly. However, sometimes what happens is when you save it into a CSV file, this index column 000 also gets saved. Okay, that time if you ever get something called unnamed 0, you'll get a column named unnamed 0. If you get a column named unnamed 0 or unnamed x, you need to put index underscore call equal to 0 in the read underscore CSV function. So that is basically over here. To go to another parameter of a function, you need to separate it by commas, press shift tab, and the parameter which I was talking about is called index call. Okay, so you can copy that over here, put it over here, equal to 0. So I'm going to show you what it looks like if I put index call equal to 0. Assume that checking account is basically 0, unnamed 0, and it has 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I press shift enter, checking account is now the index values. Do you guys get it now?
Yeah.
But yeah, now we don't need all of this. Okay, one doubt I have. Why is it only showing? Okay, head. Okay, that's it. Okay, so this is with respect to reading data. Now say you want to look at the data frame, just put df and press enter. It gives you the entire data frame. If you want to look at the first 5, you need to put df.head, or first n means df.head. Inside that I put 10 means it's going to show us 10 rows. Let's leave it at df.head of 3. And if you want to see the last, you need to put df.tail of, means it will show the last 5. I'm going to put df.head of 3 to show the last 3. Okay. So that is with respect to reading data and looking at it right now. Now we're going to see how to plot the data. Okay. So for plot, you can do two things. One is df. Okay, you know what? For this also, I'll just do df.describe. Okay, cool. You see this? All of these columns now are like all of the numeric columns will have the describe done. If I wanted like unique values of and another thing which I forgot to cover is to get column names. Listen guys, I'm going randomly and haphazardly, but I will share this IPYNB file so that like you can refer to it one by one later. But yeah, to get the column names, you put df.columns, and this is not a function, so you don't do this. Okay, you need to put df.columns and it will give you the names of the columns. If you want the rows, if you want the shape, you put df.shape. Our data frame right now, which I'm using right now for EDA, machine learning, all that, has 10,000 rows. The first one is the number of rows, and the second one is the number of columns. So it has 1,000 rows and 22 columns. Okay, so this is how you get the column names, and this is how you get the shape. Okay. Then after this, what happens? We need to plot, right? So if you just want to plot normally, you can use the inbuilt pandas functionality. Okay, so what I'm talking about right now is remember how df.mean all of that is there. So pandas has now included df.plt. Okay, so you need to put a pandas series, but you can't put a data frame and ask it to plot. You need to put a pandas series. So let's see what we would like to plot. We'll put credit amount. Okay, credit amount. Why is it? Okay, credit dot amount. Sorry, attribute error. Series object has no attribute PLT. I don't know why. Plot. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So this is just a normal line plot of like how it gets printed. Obviously, this is not what she wants per se. I mean, you could get away with this. She won't say anything. It is a plot. it is good enough. But if you want more functionality, you can do something like PLT. Remember how we called matplotlib? PLT dot plot of um, y versus x. So you put x, then you put y, and then you put whatever you want. Okay, so x over here is going to be my df of credit amount, or you know what, x is going to be age in here. So what is the name? Age dot in, what is it called? Dot years, years, comma space df of credit. Okay, it looks super shit. Okay, that was super anticlimactic, and it's my fault for sure. Okay, there's obviously 1,000 data points, which is why it looks so bad. Uh, df.plot.bar at least, df.plt.bar. Okay, this is much better. Okay, so this is a bar chart showing like how many people are there in each one with so and so this thing. A bar chart isn't as descriptive. Obviously, I'm not going to cover like what graph needs to be drawn for what. That's like super intuitive. However, let me just give a short introduction on that too. Okay, for numeric data, you put line plots or scatter plots. Okay, for categorical data or scatter plots or density plot or histogram. So I should have been putting histogram over here. For categorical data, you put bar charts or pie charts. Okay. So let me just put hist. Okay. So for hist, you need to only put one, which will give the count. So say she is asking us how is the age distributed in the data frame. This is how it's distributed. It's left skewed, which means it's shifted to the right a little. So it's a left skewed graph with the data frame looking like this. Okay, so this is how the histogram goes. I can change the number of bins to get a more defined shape. Okay, so this is with respect to plotting. If you want to know what function to use, so put plt dot, and then if you want a bar plot, put ba, and then you'll get bar. If you want to put plt hist, you put plt hist. If you want to say scatter, yeah, the scatter also. For this, maybe we can do df of age and then years. Okay, this is a really good plot. Okay, so this is how it goes. Now another thing, if you want to, you can do it. If you want, you can pay attention and do this. plt.figure fig size equal to 12,6. Okay, so this increases your figure size. Over here also you need to put it always. plt.figure fig size equal to 12,6. Okay, so this is a good enough graph over here. Okay, you can also play around with the functionality. For this, I only ask you guys to explore. So there's something like density equal to false, right? So what we're going to do over here, we're going to put density equal to TRUE, and it isn't showing us our density plot. I do not know why. I think we need to put alpha value. We need to change the alpha value to say it. And there's color over here. There is align. All of that. There is stacked, which means if you want to draw one histogram on top of the other, in case you don't know what each of this means, you need to scroll a little more and it will describe. So X, an array or sequence of arrays with input values, bins, the number of bins it needs to go into, range, okay, the range in which it needs to be plotted, density, it will draw a probability density, weights. So if you want to give weights for a few attributes, you can do that, and then you can run through it and do this. Okay, so that is with respect to plotting data. So this is basic plotting. I don't think more than this there is nothing we can do. Okay, let me see at least in our if you guys know anything else, please tell now itself, because many will be watching this only for preparation. If you guys know any other things which we can plot now, or we're supposed to plot now, please let me know. Please. I want to see with respect to this. Okay, this is with respect to matrix, and this is also matrix, and this doesn't have any plots whatsoever. This also doesn't have any plots. Okay, then it's okay. No worries. Okay, so this is we're done with plotting also. Now we're going to go for data pre-processing techniques, which is label encoding and standard scaling. Okay, these are the two major data pre-processing techniques. Okay, so let us get an idea of df dot head. To get an idea of what kind of data we're dealing with, this is how it looks. Okay, I'm gonna see df dot type. df dot data. Bro. df dot d. Describe d types. Okay, so that's the function. See, I didn't know what d type, what function it was. I knew it was data types. Series not callable. So, okay. So we have checking account, which is an object. Credit history, which is object. All of this mean that they're categorical data. Okay. If it's anything other than int64 or float, it is a categorical data. So what we need to do before feeding it to our machine learning model is to change it into numeric data. Okay, so for this we need import from scikit-learn now from sklearn, right? Yeah, sklearn import sklearn dot pre-processing. Guys, with respect to importing, this is something you need to mug up. So I'll put all of this in the first cell. You need to mug up this. There's nothing we can do other than that. So label encoder. Hopefully it doesn't give me an error. Okay, so sklearn dot. Okay, yeah. So from sklearn dot pre-processing, import label encoder. So now we have label encoder. Okay, so LE equal to label encoder. So I'm calling the function right now and I'm saving it in a variable named LE. Okay, so df of which one of this shall we change? We'll change checking amount. Okay, checking dot amount. I'm showing you how you change the value. Okay, equal to LE dot fit underscore transform. Okay, this is the function that you use to transform data. Fit underscore transform of, you put another series inside. df of checking amount. Okay, label encoder is not defined. Why? Oh, encoder. Okay. Key error. There's no thing called checking amount. Oh. Checking account. Okay, sorry. Checking account. Over here also checking account. Okay, so what key error means is, I told you guys right now. So key error is that. So let me print out df.head. Hopefully checking account will not look like lesser than 0, 0 less than checking, less than 200, no checking account. It will have 4 numbers rather. Yeah, 1, 0, 3, that way. Okay, so to make sure that it's been done properly, you need to do df of checking account dot unique. Okay, so there are 4 categories and it's been divided into 4 values now. So now df dot checking account will be like that. So in the exam, what you need to do is you need to follow this step alone for every categorical variable. So you have to do df of credit history, say credit history, and over here also you need to do credit history. You can't do it in one go. You can't do the column names df of this comma this comma this is equal to le dot fit underscore transform of that. It needs to be a pandas series, so you need to do it one by one. Okay, So that's what you need to do everywhere. For everything where there's text or any kind of categorical variable, you need to do this call the label encoder from pre-processing, then le equal to label encoder, then le.fit underscore transform, le.fit underscore transform. Okay, so that is, after you do all of that, it will look somewhat like this. Okay, df equal to kd dot. I've already done it, which is why I'm just going to show you. Machine ready credit. Okay, df dot. Okay, now it looks something like this. Okay, 0 1 2 0 0. Duration is in 6. There's not even a single text column, so this is machine ready. That means the machine learning algorithm can now do whatever it wants on this because it's like normal data. Okay, next step. Okay, standard scaling, and we have two more steps over here, which is standard scaling and train test split. Okay, so from sklearn dot pre-processing import standard scaler. Again, you need to import all. You need to remember all of the standard scaler. Cannot import name standard scaler. Okay, so where is standard scaler? Standard scaler.
You show the spelling?
Yeah, scaler I put, AR I put. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so this is correct only. So then you put df equal to standard scaler dot fit underscore transform of df. Over here you can put the entire data frame, I guess. Hopefully require one position argument. Okay, so you can't do that. Wait, we did that only, no? X array like any shape with n and n features. Y equal to none. I don't get why it's giving us an error. Let me just look at the documentation.
Dude, remove. I think you have to put df dot fit underscore transform. Ulta.
1 second, bro. Hey, no, it says over here only, no, scalar dot transform data. Over here is the converted the entire data frame itself. You can do fit underscore transform in one way itself, or I think we should do fit and then we should do transform. Okay, we'll try that once. Dot fit standard scalar dot fit standard scalar dot transform. Hey bro, what bro?
You should be able to do fit and transform in one shot. You should do try df dot fit underscore transform.
No, df
Oh, wait,
dot,
but
if you
you
put
need
df
standard
dot,
scalar.
yeah, so df dot means it will,
Wait, yeah.
okay, so it's okay, no, we'll just see over here what we've done in IP by NB files in machine learning assignments. It won't be in this, it will be towards the end only, right? Okay, standard scalar, okay, make pipeline, standard scalar.
Okay, without pipeline also it should be there.
Again, I've done make pipeline only. Standard scalar dot fit and where else am I using it? That's all. I don't even use it. Standard scalar. Okay, there it is. You need to call the function, dude. Okay. So the reason why it was coming as shit is because you need to put scalar. I should have done what we did over here properly. Scalar equal to standard scalar. Okay. Then we should have done df equal to scalar dot fit underscore transform of df. Okay, so this happen. This is how it will work now. Now it will come. Now if I print df, it will give this array. Don't worry. I know it looks like a shitty ass array. You can directly feed this also, but to be safe, to get back where you want it, what you need to do is you need to put call names equal to df dot columns. Okay, and then what you need to do is after doing df equal to standard scalar fit, you put df equal to pd dot data frame of df comma call names. I think this should work. One second. Let me just restart. I don't know. Oh, fuck. Shape is 1000, indices imply 22, 22. Which line is it? Oh no, okay, I have to specify that. Call names equal to columns equal to that. Okay, now it works. Okay, now it works, okay? So the reason why we do standard scaling is because there's something like credit amount. Say there's something like credit amount. It's in the range of 1,169, 5,099, like that. So it's between 1,000 and let's say 15,000. But all of the saving account bonds is 0101. When you standard scalar it puts it between 0, -1 and +1, I think. It should be, or -10 and +10. Something like that. Okay? It scales it so that they're all within the same range. Okay? The reason you do this is because the machine learning algorithm can find intricate details much easily, and it doesn't need to go through a lot of work with respect to finding different weights. Okay, now we're going to see train test fit. So from sklearn dot model selection import train test split. Okay, so with respect to train test split, 1 second guys. Okay, actually it's given a good suggestion. Okay, so if you ever want to like have this thing, always what you do is you do main underscore df, and then you have copy underscore df equal to do the same thing again over here. Okay, read it 2 times, and everywhere else first play around with the copy underscore df and then have fun with it. Okay, like see what happens, then after that you can implement it with main underscore df. Okay, so with respect to importing train test split, instead of naming this main, I'm going to just name this df over here. Okay, from train test split import train test split, model selection import train test split. Now let me just run this so that we get the function. Okay, so let me first call train test split. Okay, so this is the function train test split. It's super important that you understand what happens over here. Okay, I'm going to press over here in my data. The outcome is what I need to predict. So that's another mistake which I did. You're not supposed to do standard scaling here, guys. I'm really sorry, guys. Okay, you're supposed to do standard scaling after. Okay, so always this is one thing I really should have mentioned. Do your pre-processing after you split it into train and test. Okay, so I'm going to do it, I'm going to keep it that way itself. Okay, so control X, control X, and then I'm going to paste it over here. Okay, do pre-processing after. The reason you want to do that is because you don't want to change your outcome variable at all. Okay, your outcome variable should be the same. Over here it should be good, bad, or 0, 1. Okay, so label and code y also. Okay, over here I'll change everything. I'll make the IPYNV file more explicit and more clear, but otherwise that's how you first train test split and then you do the changes. Okay, so now shift tab and let's see what it does. Okay, So splits the arrays or matrices into random train and test subsets. Okay. Parameters are the arrays. Okay. So there are 5 arrays. Then you put the test size or the train size. Then you put random state in case you want to repeat it again. And then it returns 2 for each array. It returns 2 things: X train and Y train. Okay. So the way it does this is by doing for each array first. Okay. So let's say you have array 1 comma array 2. It will return array 1 comma train underscore train comma space array 1 comma test array 2 underscore train and array 2 underscore test. Okay. So this is what happens, okay, with respect to train test split. Okay. So let's try that out. Okay. Let's first split our data frame. So what you need to recognize what is going to be array 1 and array 2. Array 1 will be X, which is going to be your features which you're going to train your machine learning model on. Array 2 will be the outcome variable, or Y. Okay, Y will be the outcome variable. That is what you need to predict. Okay, so X equal to df of df. You can't put each and every column name. If you want, you can do that also. You can add each and every column name. What I like to do always is put df dot drop columns equal to, I'm going to just put outcome. Okay, and Y is equal to df of outcome. Okay, then X underscore train, X underscore test, Y underscore train, Y underscore test is equal to train test split of df, X comma Y comma test underscore size is equal to 0.25. She will mention how much size it needs to be. I always put it as 0.25. Okay, cool. So let's first put the shape of each one. Okay, X dot shape, Y dot shape. Comma space Y dot shape. Sorry, I put it. Okay, so there's 1000 rows in X. It's 21 columns, and this is just one column over here. So let me just print it out so that you understand how it looks like. You see, head has everything. It has 21 columns. If I put Y alone, it's going to be only those outcome values. Okay, let me just kernel. I'm over here. Sorry. I'll change this later actually. You know what, I'll change it later. Okay. But yeah, Y underscore head has all of the outcome values, and it's going to be unique only. So if you want to see, it's going to have 2 unique values. It's going to have 2 unique values, either good or bad. Okay. So that is with respect to splitting into train test split. This is one of the most important parts. The first array and then the second array, it's going to give array 1 underscore train, array 1 underscore test, then array 2 underscore train, array 2 underscore test. Okay, if you want to make sure that it's around the same, X dot shape, X underscore train dot shape. Yeah, it's 750. 750 is 75%. So train is 75% and test will be 25%. So this is with respect to X and Y. So now we're done with everything. I think all the steps are over except for fucking machine learning models and performance metrics and comparing the results between these models. Okay, machine learning models, I'm not going to go through each and every machine learning model. What you need to do would be to go to LMS, go to our course and download each one of these, and then you need to go through them separately, or I will include each and every machine learning model which she has covered into this IPYNB file and upload that in our class, this thing along with the data set, so that you guys can explore and have fun with it. but go through each one of these codes to know how to import and what to import. Okay, there's like for each one there'll be like 5-6 ways you can import it. So you need to learn how to import it. That's the only thing you need. Okay, otherwise the entire rest of the rest of the process is extremely similar and it's super same. Okay, so let us go for logistic regression. Okay, you know what, I'm just going to take this code because it'll be a pain to it'll be super boring if I write it all over again. Okay, do pre-processing after train test bit, copy df, yeah, over here. Okay, so this is how you import logistic regression from scalar.linear model. Import logistic regression, then you call the logistic regression. Okay, generally logistic regression will have default value of binary, so double class it will be. Okay, then you don't even need to call, yeah, over here, yeah. So then logistic classifier is, you don't need to go this, you don't need to assign it to another variable. Then you do logistic model dot fit of train and x train and y train. Okay, then the next step would be predicting your values, which would be ypred underscore name of your uh, name of your classifier is equal to logistic underscore model dot predict x underscore test. So step number 1 would be importing the model. Step 2 would be saving the model into variable with respective parameters. Okay, say I have many classes now, say I have multiple classes. Okay, let me just run this. Okay, say I have multiple classes. What I need to do is, there's this one thing called multi-class. Yeah, multi-class. Multi-class is set to auto, which means it will detect whether if it's binary or this thing. Say I have more than 2 classes, I have to put multi-class equal to know what I need to put, I need to scroll down till multi-class, till I see yeah. Multi-class can go for auto, OVR or multinomial. Okay. If the option is chosen as OVR, then binary problem is fit. If for multinomial, loss is minimized, is multinomial loss fit. Okay. So I have to put loss multinomial. I can put max iterations equal to 10 million, something like that. Okay. Okay. So that is with respect to calling the function and putting the respective parameters. You have to mug up each and every one of them. I'll try to include all of them over here and what kind of parameters you need to call for that. I'll put it in a markdown file, markdown cell, so that you can put it in code cell and then run it. So step 1 would be saving the model with the parameters, fitting with train and test, predicting and saving. Okay. Now for dot predict, so if you see logistic model underscore fit itself, if I press shift tab for the fit function, it will show that you need to put x comma y, and sample weight you don't need to put it for logistic model right now. For none of them you need to put that sample weight thing. You can just put x comma y. Fit the model according to given training data. So it should be x training data and y training data. If I put dot predict, it predicts the class for samples in x. So it should be x test. It's not named that way. If you want, you can press plus x array for samples and returns another array. Okay. So this is with respect to doing this. What label unknown type. Okay, continuous. Okay. 1 second. The reason why it's giving us an error is because over here outcome is continuous, like it's not in good or bad, right? So we need to do that label encoder. Let's do that one thing. Okay, for y alone. Okay, y is equal to fit underscore transform of y. Okay, now why is it still giving? Yeah, it's 0 and 1. logistic model dot fit y. Okay, it should be y underscore test and y underscore train. Y underscore train y underscore test equal to le dot fit underscore transform. Okay, this is more like I just want to show you guys how it works. I'll clean it all up and then I'll send it. Okay. Yes. Okay, cool. That means it's saved, it's run. The logic model is working well and good. Okay. Now the first part alone, which is the train accuracy. Okay. This train accuracy alone, you can get it by doing the name of the model or the name of the classifier dot score. So let me just do logistic model dot score exchange and y train. Okay. 77% it's fitted in train itself. It means it knows that it will predict only 77% of it correct. For test, you need to do something called accuracy score. Okay, so for that we need to import a part called accuracy score. Okay, that is in sklearn dot metrics. Import sklearn dot metrics as metrics. Okay, this is much better because you need to do a lot of stuff with metrics and you won't know what all should be there. So for accuracy score alone, you need to put metrics dot. I'm going to see what all functions are there. So there's accuracy score right on top. Okay, so accuracy score, I need to put y true and y predicted. Okay, so that would be for us y test is y true and y pred logistic is y predicted. It's a 66% accuracy rate. Another thing you can do, which is much more simple, would be the classification report. Metrics dot classification report. This way you don't need to do all of that shit. It'll give you precision recall, everything. Okay. So y underscore test, y underscore pred underscore logistic. Okay. Okay, I know what has happened. Print. Okay, so you need to put print for classification report to get it like in this neat ass form. And then finally, one more metric you need to do for classification is metrics dot confusion matrix of y underscore test comma y underscore pred. Okay, y underscore pred underscore logistic. Okay, so this is the confusion matrix. That's how it looks. Okay. That's the confusion matrix. Okay, so that is done with respect to classification. For regression, the entire process up until this classification report is same. So metrics dot accuracy score would, you know what, not even that. Okay, till here it's same. Till y predicted is logistic model dot predict is same. After that, to evaluate, you need to use other metrics. Okay, metrics such as ROC code, not ROC, MSC, right? Mean, okay, yeah, mean absolute error. It's not written as MAE or MSC. You need to use metrics dot mean absolute error, metrics dot R2 score, metrics dot mean squared error, and RMSC is equal to NP dot SQRT, which means numpy dot square root of mean underscore squared underscore error. Okay, so I think that covers it all, dude, for our exam. Just revise everything. We know how to open a IPYNB file. We know how to create a data frame. You import all the necessary libraries over here generally. Whatever you need to import, I'll put it over here. Okay, so try to mug that up and then put that as necessary. Then for mutating data, for creating a data frame, you can either use a two-dimensional array or you can make a dictionary and then you can create it. For getting the index location of the third or fourth row, you need to put iloc of, like if you want the fourth row, you need to put iloc of n minus 1. If you want the column name, you need to put prices of the column name, df dot column name, or df in square brackets in quotes column name. Then for adding a new column, you can put prices dot date equal to Jan, Feb like that, or you can do something else like prices of return equal to prices of close star prices of volume. You can print whatever. If you, let's say you want only 2 columns to be printed, you write those columns in a list in quotes, save it into call names, and then put prices of call names. Then this is for getting the measures of central tendency. There's mean, median, mode, all of that. Then prices.describe will give us for the numeric, df.describe will give us for numerical data the count, mean, standard deviation, min, 25%, 50%. Volume will be value underscore, so to get value underscore counts, that is how many are there for each unique value, you need to do value underscore counts. This can be like how many people are senior citizen, how many people are young adult, and how many people are middle-aged people. So that can be a question, like count the number of people for that. Then you need to do value underscore counts. Then to get what all are unique, you need to do df.unique. You can save it into another variable also. Now to read data, you need to do pd.read underscore csv, and then you need to put the folder name. Folder name / always our folder name is going to be data / edi German credit risk.csv. Do not forget this part at all. Okay, it will think of it as an error. Another thing which I wanted to say, which many people make mistake, including myself, is df.shape. All of those, mean, median, mode, you need to do mean and do that, or median and do that, put those parentheses. But for shape, you shouldn't put those parentheses. If you put those parentheses, it will say tuple object is not callable. Same thing with respect to columns. Okay, you can't put a function. It will say index object is not callable. Okay, then what else is there, dude? To get the to get the first n values, you can put df.head off. To get the last n values, you put df.tail off. And if you put df.describe over here, we've covered this. The df.columns is covered, shape is covered. Okay. Now coming to plotting, you can do df.plot of this, and I think you can also put the type of plot. Yeah, kind equal to line or bar or horizontal bar or histogram or box plot or kernel density estimation or density plot or area plot or pie chart or scatter chart and all of that. And you know how to get this kind of docstring. You go inside the parentheses, press shift tab. Okay, so that's one way you can plot. Another way you can plot is calling matplotlib as plt. In case your plot doesn't show like this at all, it just shows this text over here, you need to do something called magic function, which is percentage inline matplotlib, I think matplotlib. Okay, something like that once again. Matplotlib percentage inline function. Okay, I put dollar again. Okay, it's not that way. It's the other way around. Percentage matplotlib inline. This will make sure that it always prints it over here, because sometimes for some browsers it might not be supported, so it won't print it out. But this will make sure that an output will always come. So with respect to what graph you need to plot, it's based on the variable. For numeric, as I said, for numeric data you can put like lines plot, scatter plot, density plot, histograms. For categorical data you put bar charts or pie charts, and you can change the figure size as you need. And now with respect to train test splitting, always the process, I'll write it again over here. First split it into x and y. Okay, then for x alone you do label encoding and standard scaler for whatever you need. Okay, whatever columns that need label encoding, do label encoding for that. Then standard scale x completely, not y. Okay. Yeah. So, uh, another thing which I forgot to cover, I'm really sorry. In we know scatter, we know this, and we know bar plots. With respect to histogram, remember this one thing over here. If I didn't put specify that, it would look like this blob of data. If I increase the number of bins, you know what? Right now we have 1,000 values, right? So let me put bins equal to bins equal to 20. Okay, it's a little more defined, the shape is more defined, but if the another, you need to find that sweet spot. If I put bins equal to 100, it's going to look super crappy like this, so you don't want that. You want that sweet spot in between. So let's do 50. Yeah, 50 is also not that great. I thought 20, I think 20 is good, so 20 is good enough. Then with respect to train test split from sklearn, you need to mug up all the import libraries. That comes either with practice or like the day before the exam you can mug it up. So from this you need to import train test split, and x equal, okay, yeah. So for pre-processing, which is label encoding and standard scalar, as I said, first split it into x and y. Split your data frame into x and y. On x, complete label encoding and standard scalar. Then you split it into train and test. Okay, so x train, x test, y train, y test equal train test split, that thing. And we know with respect to standard scalar and label encoding, it's the same thing. Import label encoder, call it as a function and save it into this variable, then do fit underscore transform of the column you want to change. Okay, same thing for standard scalar, I guess. Yeah, standard scalar, fit underscore wait, where the fuck is standard scalar, guys? Okay, I don't know, I think I deleted it. Okay, it's okay, I'll write it again. But yeah, for standard scalar also it's the same thing. Okay, I deleted that one kernel, I guess. Okay, so with respect to standard scalar also same thing. Call it as a function, save it into something called se, and then se dot fit underscore transform of so and so, for fit underscore transform of the entire data frame. But you need to create the data frame again. Okay, it will come as a 2D array. If you want, you can create the data frame again so that you get a better understanding of everything and you know what's up. Otherwise, yeah, so that you get a better understanding, do that. Okay, but if you're confident that you can understand as a 2D array, go forward with it. There's no issue with that also. And finally, it is importing the model, saving the model into a variable, fitting the train and test, and predicting and saving. Okay, so this is importing the model, saving it into a variable, okay, with the respective parameters, fitting x train, y train, and then predicting. For classification, the metrics you need are logistic model dot score, metrics dot accuracy score of y test, metrics dot classification report of y test, y pred, metrics dot confusion matrix. For regression, you need these. Okay, I think that covers it all. I'll clean up this entire notebook today night, and if you guys can refer to it as soon as you can, so that you can ask doubts or like we can get it cleared like beforehand itself. If I did miss something, please let me know right now. Bro, full time silent ஆயிருந்தீங்க bro. ஏன் bro இப்படி இருக்கு? இப்போ புரியுது ப்ரொஃபஸர்லாம் ஏன் டென்ஷன் ஆகிறாங்க. யாருமே இல்லையா? ஓகே, இருக்கீங்களா? யாராவது இருக்கீங்களா?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so with respect to that, I'll clean up the entire ITYND file and I'll upload it to Google Colab, and I'll share the link to everyone so that you guys can see how it looks. I would not suggest doing that. I would suggest you guys again install Jupyter and then use Jupyter and then figure it out. Okay, I'll put all of the required things that you need to import, and that's it. Okay, cool. ஏதாவது டவுட் இருக்கா இல்லையா? ஏதாவது கவர் பண்ணுமா சொல்லுங்க பாய்ஸ். ஈஸ்வர், அரியன், பரத் பாபு, சிந்தியா ஜார், சாய் பிரீத்தி, அரியன், தனுஷ்.
Hey, it was good. No doubt for now. Okay. Thank you.
I'll clean up that entire data frame, that IPYNB file in some time, and I'll upload it I'll put it in the WhatsApp group. You guys can refer to that at your leisure and figure it out. Okay. I'll put the entire directory over there so that you guys can see. And I think that covers everything for our Cat 4, dude. Let me just make sure that it does. Okay. So let's see what she has written with respect to Cat 4. What we need to do. What is it? It's called MLOE, right? Yeah. MLOE 77. Cat 4 will be Wednesday. You have to do coding, data analysis, read data, perform some operations. We've done that. Data pre-processing and visualizing, cleaning and normalizing the data. We've done processing, we've done visualization. ML models, 2 models you have to build. That also we've seen how to build an ML model and how to evaluate its performance and compare the performance between these 2 models, which means you need to compare which one is better and which one would you recommend. Also, guys, do learn what all errors you need to give more preference to. Okay, there might be a question like, do you need higher precision or do you need higher recall? So pay attention to that too. Okay, with respect to that, that's it. If you guys want to chill for some time, you can stay here, or if you want, you can leave. I'll stop recording the session.